live, and on your side. This is KTBS 3 News Midday.
Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for your KTBS News Midday. I'm Nate Fluharty, and we certainly have a lot to tackle over the next 60 minutes, but the weather has been and will continue to be our main priority. We're on your side, keeping you updated on all things happening with the winter weather and especially the road conditions. Now, behind me right now, a live look at I-49, and what you won't see are vehicles traveling on this stretch of roadway. Now, just in the last 2 minutes here, we did see a Department of Transportation salt truck heading down that road and made that turn right there. And we're starting to see some tracks being made there, of course, laying down some salt, but I-49 is still closed at this time. A couple other roads too, but this is kind of the main thoroughfare that remains closed at this time. But DOTD out doing their thing and trying to get this major roadway open. So we'll keep you updated on that. We're in fact going to keep you updated on everything happening right now with the winter weather. And we want to kick off our live team coverage right now with Rick Rowe, Photog Jeff Dillard out there, and keeping an eye on things all morning for us. And hey, joined by one of the best to keep us on the roadways, Aaron Buchanan there. Good morning, Rick and Jeff.
Hey, good morning. You just mentioned I-49. That's exactly where we are. And the good news is Department of Transportation is working. They've been working really hard since Sunday, and they've done an incredible job. We've told you about some of the great work they've done on 220, the I-20 bridge over the Red River. They've been working nonstop, basically almost 24 hours a day. But finally, they've come to I-49. Aaron, let's talk about why now? Why wait until now for I-49?
So the resources, we've gotten to a point in this particular winter weather event that we're able to pull those resources that we've had in other locations and put them on 49 in order to prep this to get it to a point where it's safe to reopen. So what we're, seeing here is brine application being put onto the roadway. Brine is a salt solution that when dries will perform the same way salt does and have that chemical reaction in order to perform the de-icing that we want to see. That, along with the rising temperatures and the abundant sunshine, will go a long way towards seeing some significant melting out here for us. Of course, I-49, the urban section where we are right now is all elevated. And Rick, of course, we were talking about this earlier.
Yes.
About why we close this section of I-49.
Right.
It's part of our preemptive closure list. We know we're likely going to close it in the event of winter weather because this section alone would be such a drain on our resources, our people, our salt, our equipment, just to try and keep this open because it is all basically bridge and overpass. It's all elevated.
Right.
And so by closing it, we're able to put those resources in other places, particularly because this year, of course, we work to keep I-220 open.
Right.
So that's kind of what we're seeing out here. We've got crews out here on both directions, northbound and southbound side, and they're working to get it to a point where we deem it safe to reopen.
Let's talk a little bit about the science of brine and salt. What does it actually do?
So there's a chemical reaction there that lowers the freezing temperature of the ice and keeps it from forming more quickly.
Okay.
So now what people don't really, I think, realize is that salt loses its effectiveness below about 20 degrees. It drops dramatically.
Oh, okay.
So even though we continue to put it out, you don't have that same effectiveness of salt below a certain temperature. It kind of loses that. And another thing that people don't realize, at least for DOTD, is that the resources we have on hand are put only on bridges and overpasses.
Right.
We don't treat the roadway itself.
Right.
And so that's a lot of what we hear. Why wasn't this roadway treated? Well, the road itself is not if it's a state highway.
Yes.
It's the bridge and overpass that we put our resources on.
And what we're seeing here is just the location, the combination. We don't know exactly why, but this is already melted on its own largely, probably because of the sun.
Yep.
I don't know why, but this is the only small section of I-49 that has melted. Most of it is still covered by ice. So let's talk about how quickly this can happen. Everybody wants to know, when will I-49, the urban section, open?
It's tough to say at this point. A lot of it is going to depend on, how much melting we get off today. We're very fortunate to see the sunshine. That helps. Even if the temperatures were below freezing, that helps with melting. But once we hit that 32 and up mark, we'll see some significant improvement here. We'll see larger sections that look a lot like this, what you're seeing now.
Right.
And then we've got, these other dump trucks that are coming through and driving and helping break up, what's there as well. So all of these operations are going on to try to get this open. I can't give you a firm timeline. Hopefully
Right.
we'll know something, a little later today on when we can look at reopening, just depending on what conditions are like.
Give me some idea of the scope of the operation. How many people working? And I know it's been pretty much nonstop.
It has been. Yeah, they're working 12-hour shifts and have been since Sunday at noon, round the clock. That's accurate to say. We've put out over 625,000 pounds of salt across the 7-parish district thus far since then. Keep in mind we've got 1,800 bridges across this district, and so those are spread out in areas that all of these crews are having to cover and treat those overpasses. We've got 5,000 plus lane miles in the area. So this is a pretty large operation. It's not on the scale of 2021, thankfully for that.
Yes.
But it's enough to definitely impact us, and we know that. And so we are out here working until the job is done.
Amen. Well, look, I can attest. We've been on the roads for 3 days now, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job.
We appreciate
how
that.
rapidly 220 has been very passable for a long time. The bridge over the I-20 yesterday over the river was, I thought, very effectively brined or salted or sanded. I never knew quite what you were using, but I think you guys have done a great job. And you've answered that question. People always wonder, why is it always 49 that shuts down? Well, it's because the entire thoroughfare is elevated.
It's elevated.
And
one long bridge, basically.
You literally would exhaust all of your resources
right.
on this one stretch of road.
That's right.
So
That's it.
It's a better utilization of resources.
That's it. It's a strategic move to be able to close this, as well as the northern section. It's not all one bridge, but there are lots of bridges and overpasses along the I-49 north section. And so, again, that would be a too much of a strain, and not a practical strain on resources. We can put them elsewhere more effectively.
Now, I'm going to finish with this final question because I know everybody watching is wondering, when do you think, best guess, Aaron, this might be clear?
I know everybody's wondering. I can't tell you that.
Right.
Again, it's going to depend on how much melt off we get today. We'll take a look at things this evening. Of course, as we know, we'll drop down back below freezing again tonight. And so it's really going to depend on what these conditions look like. As we see, we've still got quite a bit of ice coverage out here.
Yes.
And so, could it be tomorrow? I'm not sure about that. It just, time will tell on that.
Brian, I can just tell you this, things have improved. We've been talking about this for 3 days, but I've been very impressed with what these guys from the Department of Transportation have been doing nonstop for 3 days, working almost as hard as you are, my friend.
Absolutely. You and Jeff have been out just giving out that info for folks in the early mornings and for the late mornings too on the midday shows, letting folks know what roads are clear, what roads are not yet, what roads are being worked on by the department. And I thank you very much, Aaron Buchanan, for helping us out and giving us the latest info on brine and also on the salt solutions that are used on those elevated roadways. Now then, Aaron, real quick, what about the black ice? Because we end up seeing those patches. I guess we're still going to have that problem even after the thaw. There's going to be some areas when things start to freeze back up. Does the brine solution, does that help out with those little patches that are kind of left over, the rogue spots?
Yeah, Brian, I'm going to relay your question to Aaron. Brian Fowler is asking, what about the black ice? Does this brine and salt solution work on that as well, Aaron?
It will above a certain temperature. Again, you've got an effectiveness basically above 20 degrees, but it will, work toward breaking up those patches of black ice for sure in combination with the sunshine and rising temperatures.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
We just thank God you guys are out there doing what you do.
We appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rick and Jeff and Aaron, very much for being out there and protecting us today. And speaking of that black ice, because we're still going to see some patches, because like Aaron said, we are going to be below freezing in some areas for later tonight. Now then, black ice really isn't black. What it is it's actually a very thin layer of ice. It just looks like the pavement. It looks like wet pavement at that. And what's really difficult and unfortunate about black ice, it's practically transparent, and it makes it really hard to spot. And when you do see it, it's too late. and you're already sliding around and you go off into a ditch, even just a patch of it can really mess up your driving time. Sometimes permanently. Okay, let's look at the roadways. This is I-20, and we've got Airline, Common Street, Industrial, and Old Minden, and folks are moving along. Looks like things are definitely improving. Now, the roadways that haven't been driven on yet, like some of the roads are blocked on I-20 because of the construction, so they still look pretty iced up, but they are already looking better than they did yesterday. Let's take a look out there in DeSoto right now. Check that out. Mansfield, 31 degrees with sunshine, and the roads are looking better down there. Over in Texarkana, we're 27 and on the rise. South-southwest winds at 7. Still, we've got a wind chill of about 19. Now today, we've got sunshine all day long. Tonight, south winds, clouds pick up, roll through the area. There's a smidgen of a chance of seeing a few drops of rain in the eastern parishes as a weak disturbance moves through, but otherwise tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds, and the same thing goes for our Friday too, but Friday we're going to see a surge of more cold air rolling through the Arctic. Now let me show you something really cool here. Today by 1 p.m. temperatures will be above freezing across the Arctic, probably around 34, 35 degrees. We're going to reach a max high temperature in the north, mid to upper 30s. Will be upper 30s, closer to 40 degrees down in Toledo Bend. And then tonight, here comes another little smack roll of cold air, and it tries to make its way through, but it gets pushed back up to the north. By 6 a.m., we'll be back into the mid to upper 30s, and then climbing through the 40s and 50s, maybe even low 60s for some areas of the parishes as we head into tomorrow afternoon. But the colder 40s, they're probably going to stick around areas around Arkansas. Where do we go from these numbers tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night? We'll find out. We'll have the rest of your forecast ahead. Nate?
Brown, thanks a lot. Never thought 32 would feel warm, but hey, after days of 15, here we are. Well, hey, all new this midday. This is another aspect of the winter weather we've been closely watching. In addition to the road issues, too, are the power outages. Now, these are the very latest numbers being reported right now from SWEPCO, and you can see right now Bossier Parish, the hardest hit parish this morning when it comes to power outages, just over 730, 569 in Caddo Parish, and Natchitoches with 252. So we're going to keep monitoring these numbers. Know that SWEPCO crews have been out all morning long trying to get the power back on. Still certainly very cold for folks. You're going to want to stay tuned for that. And this just in, after 3 days of severe weather, learning the city of Shreveport will open all operations tomorrow. But for now, the city is basically still closed. With that, that means trash pickup won't resume until Thursday and Friday and will return to a regular schedule after that. So if your trash pickup is Monday or Tuesday, that's not going to happen again until next week. SPAR will also continue operating those warming shelters. There's some open right now. They close at 7 p.m. They're open from 8 to 7. Also, Sportran has resumed on a limited basis their bus operations, but they're going by a Sunday schedule for right now. And Shreveport Airport is open. And again, the city of Shreveport will open in its entirety tomorrow. And also new this midday, the city of Shreveport's Department of Water and Sewage wants you to limit your water use today. They say because of the extreme winter weather we've been dealing with, they haven't been able to fully replenish the water reserves, and that could cause lower than normal water pressure today. You got to think about all the people that have been dripping those faucets. Maybe you're one of them. So basically the city wants you to use water for essential things. Now that the water is rising above that freezing point, you can officially turn off those dripping faucets. Well, we're going to have much more on the way here on your KTBS News Midday. More on that forecast and everything you need to know about what's happening around the Arctic, your nation, and the world coming up next.
When it comes to forecasting the weather, Mega 3 Live Doppler radar helps give us a better perspective when severe weather hits.
We're the only ones with our own million-watt Doppler radar.
We can better identify severe weather, which takes place closer to the surface.
Other stations source radar that's delayed by minutes that matter.
Mega 3 Doppler gives us an important edge. No one else comes close.
We have the most accurate and up-to-date information for our viewers with Mega 3 Live Doppler radar. Only one, the KTBS 3 Storm Team.